welcome to Geigenomics. Just before we begin, I want to talk about where the podcast is currently at, where I foresee it going, and I gotta say right now, we got like a consistent 6 viewers, and I'm stoked. And then it creeps up to like 10 to like 12. And I just want to say thank you to those people that have been watching since episode 1. And, I want to keep this podcast going for the next year. And the goal is to get 1,000 views on an episode before the end of the year. And I think we can totally do that. Right now, we got 2 episodes coming out a week, and I'm going to switch them to about 12 minutes an episode just for consistency's sake and have it more consumable. And I think I really can increase the output. Maybe we'll go to like 3 videos a week. But we'll see. And I just want to say that like if I can't right now, I can't figure it out, but if you're one of the first 10 people to subscribe to this YouTube channel, send me a DM. I know a couple of who you are, but if you're interested, like I just want to, let you know, because this is what I see. Honestly, the points we make on this podcast are way too valuable and too intellectual that they're not gonna die out. Like, this is based on science, the youngest of all sciences, economics, and people don't know economics, and that's why I'm here to try to create a platform to share the knowledge of economics and what it is. And it really is the philosophy of peace and civilization, and that's what's so great about it. And we're not talking about morality. I know we discussed an episode on morality, but even without moral premises, like, we can come to peaceful conclusions via economic reasoning. And that's just what's so powerful, because then if you implement moral premise and just take friendship, for example, it's like, yeah, friendship exists in the world, and I can value that. But I also understand what friendship isn't, and I can understand, the economics of war and why this occurs. But like, if you look at it, like, wars occur from statism, so that would be my reason to not have a state, is because we go to war. If you just take secession, it's peaceful. Say country were to secede from, or California were to secede from the United States. Now California is its own country. And then you take the counties. If you take Orange County, LA County, San Diego County, they secede from the state. One of these counties is not going to wage war in Yemen. It's not going to happen. And what we have today under this forced collectivism is wars happening in the Middle East. So, I mean, the state is a monopoly. We're talking about defunding the police. And, the reason to not have the police is the same reason to not have a monopoly on anything, like healthcare, because it leads to inefficient outcomes and it results in a quality of a service that people don't want. That's why where you had socialized medicine in Soviet Russia, you had thousands of people dying, and the quality of healthcare isn't there because the incentives aren't lined up. Just the same way that the incentives for public education is to, I went to a good public school, I will admit. So there's pros and cons to public services, but if you don't have the choice to use alternatives, then that's where you get a decrease in the quality of service. This is why we have an issue with public education, letting people graduate high school or pushing them to graduate high school with a reading level that's at the 2nd grade level. It's unfortunate, but this is the reality. And, just think how insane it would be if we let the government run grocery stores and food provision. That's when you get bread lines. And it's the same thing with the roads. I believe it's like roughly 40,000 people die on the roads every year. The roads are very dangerous. And I think the managers of the roads, which are the government, should be responsible for the deaths. But yet they're not. They blame it on speeding, drunk driving, lane switching, all these things. Sure, but there's better ways to operate the roads. And then you can tell me that, oh, well, the capital infrastructure would be too expensive. We can't do this. But I'm telling you, no, this has been done before. And when you have a monopoly on a service, the quality goes down while the cost of the service goes up. And it's like, why would you allow the government? They're just a corporation. Listen. So this is what's so beautiful about this philosophy is like you can actually understand some of the memes, like taking the red pill. The red pill is, this was I think originated with Mencius Moldbug, and then has been used more by like Michael Malice and Dave Smith. And the red pill is just understanding. It comes from the movie The Matrix, but it's seeing life for what it is. And you see the cathedral, how the government and the media create this dog and pony show called the U.S. government, and they just, it goes into like, brainwashing of public schooling, saying, oh, well, we have a system of legislation and checks and balances, and this keeps everything in order. And if we just vote the right people in, then everything will be fine. But you don't have a choice. It's not making a choice the same way that you choose where to buy your groceries, or the same way that you choose what type of shoe you want to wear. It's I like this person's policy 1, 3, 5, and 7, and I like this person's policy 2, 4, 6, and 8. And it's pretty dumb. And this is the whole thing. Is like now we're having protests on the street, and I'm an anarchist, and these people are calling them anarchists, but they're not the anarchists the way that I'm an anarchist. I'm an anarchist from understanding how economics operates, how civilization operates. And I'm not saying I'm for like, there's good cops and there's bad cops, and it's the same thing. It's I'm for security. Like, why I want security, but it's how do we provide that in the best possible way? And if you don't allow people to choose what type of security they have running their streets, you end up with this shit. And it's people getting murdered by their own government. And the U.S. government is responsible for thousands of deaths in the Middle East. So keep holding up the facade. We have social media, and that helps. But keep holding up the facade that the government is there to help you. They're not there to help you. You want to know why? Well, it's because we have a Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve allows the government size to increase. And with that, if you want to talk about discrimination, they're the biggest practitioners of discrimination that history has ever known. Okay? Yeah, we have racism, but I'm not talking about racism. That's based off a stupid ideology, and I'm talking about discrimination. And what discrimination is a choice, choosing between alternatives. And most people, I want to say, are bright. I will give them the benefit of the doubt that they are bright and understanding enough to say that, we're just people and let's eat together. Where you got to look at where discrimination was implemented was back in the Jim Crow laws. You had black people who couldn't ride in the front of the bus. Why couldn't they use? Why couldn't they do anything about it? Because this was the law. It was implemented by policy. This is politics. Politics will tell you what's legal and what's not legal. So there was no. It was, I think, very costly to create another bus service. So it was pretty much a monopoly, public busing by the government. And so you can't just choose to use another bus. This is the only bus available, and it's literally a discriminatory, racist system. And it wasn't until, people began to realize that this is messed up that they began to change their ways. And this comes before politics. It's ideology. It's understanding that people are individuals. And the government is the biggest practitioners of discrimination in the sense that right now the federal spending is at $10 trillion, and we're giving people stimulus checks for $1,200. These have literally been. This is the biggest year of bailouts the U.S. government has ever seen, and it's going to big corporations and banks. It's not helping people. It's hurting the middle class. And I know this goes against everything people have been told, saying, well, we need the Federal Reserve, we need the welfare to help people. But this is not helping people. This is helping politicians and crony capitalists in this mixed economy that we have that's allowing people to get rich at the expense of other people. And it's this is what it is. And I'm for peace. I'm against the state. The state is the one that wages wars. The state is the one that robs people. It's a cathedral. Michael Malice had the great, I can't quote it verbatim, but he said that my work isn't done until people view the corporate press as they do a tobacco salesman. It gives you nothing beneficial to your life. That's what it is. People are watching the news, and unfortunately, they're just falling deeper into. I watch the news to see what they're wrong about. Like, I don't go to the news for factual information. They'll give me stories, but it still feeds into the mainstream narrative of this is why it's binary thinking. This is why everyone on the left is a socialist and a communist, and then from the left perspective, everyone on the right is a racist and a dictator. And it's like, guys, there's other ways of thinking about these things. And just to back at the premise, if you take Crusoe on his deserted island, there's no such thing as justice. Okay? It doesn't exist. Wrong and right doesn't exist. If someone is an individual on a deserted island, what's wrong, what's right? Who's to say? It's not until another person, Friday, comes along, and in the Garden of Eden, a world of superabundance, then no conflicts will arise. If every good is as accessible as the air we breathe is, no conflicts arise. Where conflicts arise is when you have scarcity. Now, the scarce resources will be allocated, and I'm not in a fantasy land. As long as there's humans, there will be murder, theft, rape. But how do we mitigate that? And I'm telling you, understatism is where it's most prevalent. If we follow this idea of cessation, where we just, Walter Block said we have 162 countries. No, he didn't say that, but I don't know the exact number. But he said, well, why don't we have 7 billion countries? And this is one for each individual. And it's not that, people migrate to where they find themselves to be most comfortable, in the sense that people typically surround themselves with their like-minded ideologies, things of that nature, similar culture, okay? And when you have this idea of forced collectivism, this is when tensions rise. And this is when conflicts arise. That's why we have protesting, because we have public roads and governments that this is where this flourishes. If you have private roads, then protest of the nature of, in the sense that we're having riots, does not occur. This gets mitigated. And I don't know why we think that this company of the United States is something that we need to pledge our allegiance to every day. If you had Walmart, as Tom Woods puts it in his example, running public education, you would see that not everyone would like the Walmart brand of public education. And then the worst part is if they have your kids pledging the allegiance to Walmart every morning, you would see how there's something wrong with that. Like, this is real life. Okay? So, basically, what I'm trying to say is this podcast is about to blow up. And I would like everyone to stick around, because I'm trying to take the white pill. There's the black pill, which is the doomsday one, or maybe it's called the clear pill. The white pill is like optimism, that we can see a peaceful society arise in our lifetimes. And that's what I'm trying to promote here. Thank you.